Goods and service tax. Britishers introduced unified tax system in India in 1860s. Then through Government of India Act 1935, sale tax of goods was added in provincial subjects. Government of India introduced sale tax in 1954. In 1974, L.K. Jha Committee recommended introduction of VAT in India. Then in 1986, modified VAT mod VAT was levied on selected commodities. Then in 1991, Raja Chalaya Committee recommended introduction of VAT. Then in 1994, service tax in India was introduced. 1999, central government announced decision to introduce VAT in India. In 2002, central VAT was levied on all the commodities at the central level. Over the years, various state governments adopted VAT system. Now, by this 2006, there are various tax like central tax like central excise duty, additional duty of excise duty under medicinal and toilet preparatory act, additional duty of customs, service tax, and various surcharges and cess levied by central government. On the state side, there were tax like state VAT tax, sale tax, central sale tax, purchase tax, entertainment tax, luxury tax, entry tax of all forms, tax on lottery, betting, gambling, and surcharges and cesses levied by state governments. What were the issues with respect to indirect tax before GST? So before GST, indirect tax system was highly fragmented and compliance heavy. There is a lack of uniformity in tax structure and the laws. Weak input tax credit mechanism. Input tax credit mechanism almost absent. Then there is a double taxation like goods tax and service tax, two different tax. Then cascading effect, tax on tax was there. Journey of GST. The journey of GST started in 2000. GST was conceptualized by then Prime Minister. In 2003 and 4, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Committee recommended adoption of GST system. In 2006-2007, budget speech. In budget speech, then Finance Minister announced GST by 2010. After 2010, various attempts have been made, but failed because GST reforms included amendments in the constitutions under Article 368 and supported by 50% of the 50% states of India. Then finally in 2016, through 101st Constitutional Amendment Act in 2016, Article 279A was introduced. Then finally, an GST Council was constituted in September 2016 by the President, and 1st July 2017 GST implemented with the aim to create a single unified Indian market to enhance ease of doing business and simplify the indirect tax system. Article 279A, introduced by 101st Constitutional Amendment Act 2016. President constitute GST Council. GST Council includes a Union Finance Minister as a chairperson and a Union Minister of State as a member, and the Minister of Finance from each and every state. These Minister of Finance from states choose a vice chairperson amongst themselves. Decision in GST Council is taken through majority of 3/4 of weighted votes of present and voting 3/4, that means 75%. Vote share of center is 1/3, that is 33%, and all states collectively have votes 2/3, that is 66%. That means center enjoys a virtual veto on decision of GST Council. Key features of GST Council. First, it creates one nation, one market. Dual structure. How? There is a provision of central GST, state GST for intra-state trade and commerce. Integrated GST for interstate exchange of goods and services. Then third feature is there is a robust input tax credit mechanism. Then fourth is threshold exemption from GST for small micro enterprises. Composition scheme for small taxpayers. Under this composition scheme, taxpayers pay fixed rate on their turnover, that is around 6%. Online compliance through GSTN portal, from registration, filing, returns to payment. Efficient GST. Seventh feature is efficient and smooth account settlement between center and state. Then provision of e-way bill system, e-invoicing for B2B transactions. GST appellate tribunal for speedy resolution of disputes is another feature of GST. Tax structure. Earlier there was 4 tax slabs. One was 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. New tax structure, 2 slabs. Have 2 slabs, 5% and 18%. There is a special tax on certain goods tax of 40% on sin goods and luxury goods and services. After reforms after 2017, उसके बाद इंट्रोडक्शन में उसके बाद क्या हुआ था? तो सबसे पहले इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ ई वे बिल्स टू मॉनिटर मूवमेंट ऑफ गुड्स and reduce tax evasion. E-way bills were introduced. Then approval of e-invoicing for B2B transactions, mandatory for firms are having turnover more than or equal to 5 crore. Launch of the quarter return monthly payment scheme for small businesses having turnover less than 5 crore. Creation of GST appellate tribunal was another reform that was introduced after 2017. Then there was an amnesty scheme for delayed appeal. Pilot launch of B2BC business to consumer e-invoicing. Then there is a formula changes for returns, refunds and additional mode of additional taxes, mode of tax payment, creation of BIFA unit, business intelligence and fraud assessment, fraud analytics unit in GST and portal. Achievements from GST: simple, unified, consumer centric and business friendly GST framework. This was an achievement because it subsumed 70 plus different taxes plus 13 plus cesses. Record revenue growth is another achievement. How? India's gross GST collection into financial year 21 was 11.4 lakh crore. In financial year 2025 it was 22 lakh crore. It was formalization of economy. According to Ministry of Corporate Affairs, total number of active registered companies in 2018 was 11.6 lakh, which increased by 61% to 18.9 lakh. Then strong compliance, improved systems and robust economic fundamentals. Active taxpayers. How? Active taxpayer because average monthly collection into financial year 18 was almost 82,000 crore. Currently in financial year 2006 it is almost more than 2 lakh crore. Enlarged GST enlarged tax payer base. How? In 2017 there was 66 lakh taxpayers who were paying GST. In 2025 there was 1.51 crore taxpayers. Then it enhanced ease of doing business. If you World Bank report ease of doing business ranking, in 2016 rank was 130. In 2022 it is 36. Now this report, price reduction. After introduction of GST, there has been price reduction because of elimination of cascading effect. National Council for Applied Economic Research study support this argument. Eliminated tax cascading effect, it is another argument. Promoting cooperative federalism through GST Council. Multiple tax slabs removed by GST 2.5 reforms. Challenges. What were challenges? GST, first was there are multiple tax slabs, then compliance burden, particularly for MSMEs and small taxpayers, lack of awareness with respect to GST exemptions for firms earning less than, with turnover less than 40 lakh. Composition scheme, for example, for goods, the term, if for manufacturing unit producing goods with a turnover of 1.5, with turnover of equal or less than 1.5 crore, that is exempted. So to such firms, they pay fixed GST at their turnover. Similarly, the scheme was quarter return, monthly payment scheme for small firms. There is a provision of nil return filing through SMS. The fourth problem is technical glitches and server downtime. ये एक प्रॉब्लम है. Inverted duty structure is still in few commodities even after GST 2.0 reforms. Sectors like edible oil has an inverted duty structure. Then there is a tax evasion and frauds because of complexity and loopholes in the system. Anti-profiteering measures होते क्या हैं? जैसे कोई कंपनी है, अगर वो GST टैक्स रेट कट का बेनिफिट नहीं देती है कंज्यूमर को, दैट प्रैक्टिस इज कॉल्ड anti-profiteering measures, and anti-profiteering measures taken by government to prevent profiteering. These measures criticized for being cumbersome and leading to disputes. Complexity in dealing with multiple tax authorities like center, between different states and center and state. Impact on informal sector. Informal sector in India employs 90% of workforce and contribute in GDP around 45%. They got impacted because of compliance burden. Then there's disproportional impact on women, particularly in informal non-farm sector, because informal non-farm workforce women contribute 61%. What are the way forward? First way forward is improving the GST portal to make it robust and glitch free. Second is enhancing tax administration. How? Through advanced analytics and fraud detection capabilities to prevent tax evasion and frauds. Better training of government officials and capacity building of these officials, and promote transparency in in-person visits to firms and eliminate corruption. Then nationwide sustained awareness programs regarding various exemptions and schemes under GST. Exemption schemes like these: composition scheme, exemptions, QRMP schemes, etc. etc. And fifth way forward is addressing concerns of manufacturing states because of apprehension of revenue loss, because GST is a destination based tax system. These are few conclusions that can be written in answer writing answers. GST is not just a tax system but a catalyst for inclusive prosperity and economic transformation achieved for Viksit Bharat by Bharat by 2047. Now, a simpler, fairer, growth-oriented, consumer-centric, and business-friendly GST system continues to evolve with a focus on ease of doing business, better compliance, and wider economic. This is another way forward. Another conclusion. Now, 7 pillars of GST 2.0 reforms. इसमें कुछ है नहीं खास, वो ऐसे ही है, बस देख लेते हैं. Building on the success of GST 1.0 reforms. ये है rationalizing rates for fairer taxation, simplifying filing through technology adoption, putting consumer first. This was another. Empowering MSMEs and manufacturers. How? Empowering MSMEs and manufacturers. How? Through fixed inverted duty structure. Inverted duty structure में होगा क्या कि रॉ मटेरियल पे टैक्स कम होगा, आउटपुट पे ज़्यादा होगा. तो ये मैन्युफैक्चर वो रॉ मटेरियल खरीदेंगे और अपना मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करके इंपोर्ट करेंगे, और आउटपुट पे टैक्स कम है ही है. देन स्ट्रॉन्गर स्टेट स्ट्रॉन्गर भारत, ये एक स्लोगन टाइप का है. लोअर टैक्स हायर स्पेंडिंग. टैक्स लोअर होंगे तो स्पेंडिंग बढ़ेगी और डिमांड बढ़ेगी, तो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ होगा. ये एक नोट्स है, डिलॉयट की एक स्टडी है, सर्वे है, दैट फाइंड्स 75% इंडस्ट्री जो रिस्पोंडेंट थे वो अप्रूव्ड GST सिस्टम. 85% of respondent across industries had a favorable experience with GST. That means they approve this GST system, citing simplified processes, improved credit flow, and stronger digital infrastructure. बस और कुछ नहीं. ये GST 2 रिफॉर्म में कुछ किया गया है. हॉस्पिटलिटी सेक्टर पे, होटल्स, ट्रांसपोर्ट पे 5% टैक्स है. एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में मेजॉरिटी ऑफ कमोडिटीज़ पे और मशीनरी इनपुट्स पे 5% टैक्स है. हेल्थ में 5 केयर पे 5% है. एजुकेशन एंड इंश्योरेंस में नील कर दिया गया. मेजॉरिटी ऑफ टेक्सटाइल पे 5% है, एक्सेप्ट फ्यू गारमेंट्स वैल्यू मोर देन 2500, GST is 18%. एविएशन सेक्टर पे नॉन इकोनॉमिक क्लास सीट्स GST हायर है, बिजनेस क्लास जनरली हायर है GST है. होगा क्या बेनिफिट्स फ्रॉम जीएसटी क्या होगा, क्योंकि लोअर प्राइसेस होंगे, जीएस टैक्स कम होगा, लोअर प्राइसेस होंगे, हायर डिमांड होगी तो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ होगी। सपोर्ट फॉर एमएससी मीन्स वही, रॉ मटेरियल पे टैक्स कम है तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रमोट होगी। ईज ऑफ लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड्स, ईज ऑफ लिविंग बढ़ेगी क्योंकि इन्फ्लेशन कम होगा। ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस बढ़ हो जाएगा क्योंकि सिंपल टैक्स सिस्टम है, टू स्लैब है। टैक्स नेट बढ़ेगा, टैक्स नेट बढ़ेगा क्या, क्यों? क्योंकि जब रेट कम होते हैं तो ये देखा गया है कि टैक्स कलेक्शन बढ़ता है, क्योंकि टैक्स बेस बढ़ जाता है, टैक्स फाइल करने के लिए जो टैक्स पेयर है वो बढ़ते हैं, इसलिए ऐसा होगा। सपोर्टिंग मैन्युफैक्चर, वही इन रॉ मटेरियल पर टैक्स कम है, रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ होगी। अभी भी आपने देखा कि 22 लाख के अराउंड है और बढ़ेगी। इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम, इससे इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम डेवलप होगा। और सोशल प्रोटेक्शन होगा, कैसे? क्योंकि हेल्थ केयर पे प्रोटेक्ट टैक्स 5% है, और एजुकेशन पे जीरो हो गया है, जीएसटी इंश्योरेंस पे जीरो हो गया तो इंश्योरेंस बढ़ेगा।